What's up? What's up? What's up? Welcome to the All Around. I'm your gracious host, Dr. Anthony. Please tune in on Mondays at 6 p.m. for your entertainment purposes. We will hit current topics, old topics, and everything else in between. Be there or be square. Deuces, my loves. Hi, welcome to another great episode of the All Around. I am your gracious host, Dr. Anthony, and we have a full house tonight. We have the beautiful Miss Ida Bullock in the house, and we also have producer Mark Lee in the house. And so we have some very interesting topics that I would like to address and I would like to talk about. So without any further ado, let's go ahead and bring out Miss Ida and producer Mark Lee. Hi, Ida. I miss you.
Hey, everybody. I got on my I'm gonna act right clothes whenever I wear black. I'm grieving, not acting a fool. So okay. I went to the VA today, so I had to wear black because oh my God, being around sick people is not for the weak at heart. So I look like I'm renting somebody's space, but
it's all good. I'm just glad you're back. I missed you and missed your great insight and things like that. Mark, how are you? How are you?
I'm doing good. We talked about travel, and I may have found a new travel buddy that we can use even over here at the Hayti Heritage Center. Because yesterday, or actually not yesterday, but on Saturday, a young lady came by with her translator, but she is part of the government of Brazil. So I'm thinking that maybe we can use these connections to go visit Brazil and all along those lines. Because I'm thinking, hey, if she's part of the government, then she probably got some connections and can find us the best places to go and the best places to visit. But yeah, Miss Renata Sosa came through the Hayti Center, learned about the center and learned about the history and all along those lines. But like I said, it was a fun visit by the young lady and her translator because they speak Portuguese there. So I was totally at a loss as I do not speak Portuguese, but fortunately there was a translator that was on the trip with her that was able to make the translations and say what I was saying back in the native language of the Portuguese Brazilian culture and all in that space. And they did go downstairs and buy some African clothes because we have a gentleman there that sells African style wear and all in that way. So they didn't just come and visit, but they actually bought some clothes and items while they were here. So they spent some of that Brazilian money on the local economy.
Nice. I need to make sure I post my my travel agency website so that I can drive some traffic there, and you can send them there to support and things like that. I love it. I love it. I love it. Making connections with the Brazilians and things like that. So the first order of business I want to talk about is Keith Lee. So for all of you out there in TV land, social media land, if you don't know who Keith Lee is a social media phenomenon. He has a large following that is very protective of him. And he goes and he shares his experiences with us at different restaurants. He says that he's not a food critic. He says that, this is just something that he does. He loves food. He likes to eat. And he gives us his very, very funny take on what he has eaten and the places that he has visited. So I don't know if you guys are familiar with the whole situation that went down in Atlanta. So some of the restaurants had actually invited him over to participate in, experiencing the restaurant, the food, the culture, the staff, everything. And some of the restaurants, some other restaurants he decided to go to had no clue as to who he was. So the articles and the conversation has been centered around Keith Lee and his opinion of the restaurants. And so they have been saying that he basically shut Atlanta down with the restaurant scene, and he brought some heat to a lot of restaurants. So with that being said, he did give his opinion. He did, share his thoughts on certain aspects of the restaurant, the customer service, not being served, at a certain time. Dealing with his family, among other things. So he did receive backlash saying that he's trying to hurt Black businesses. And he's not a part of the, the Help the Black Business crew, which I don't think that is absolutely correct. So for me, I don't understand how you invite someone to a place and then you get angry when they give you their opinion, they give you their honest opinion. How can you say that this person is trying to hurt the business when the business is hurting themselves by producing poor customer service, having you wait 2 to 3 hours for seating, and among other things, and your people are attitudinal with the people that are coming to the restaurant. But when you thought it was him, well, when his family went in and you didn't know that he was with them, you treated them a different way from the way that you treated him. So before I give my spiel, I'm going to let you guys chime in, and then I'm going to chime back in.
Well, chiming in and all along those lines, I know Miss Ida's going to have some comments as well, but I just have a question. What is he doing different than what a lot of other people have not done in the past? I don't know that you know this, and I know Miss Ida doesn't know this, but I was a member of Yelp, which is a food critic site and a site in all of that space. As a matter of fact, up until about 2 years ago, I was considered Yelp elite because they will give you an elite badge. And I know that I went in there and rated some restaurants. Sometimes I did not like the service, and sometimes I gave them bad grades. Sometimes I gave them fair grades, and all in that kind of space. But it doesn't seem like he is doing anything out of the ordinary of what people might do on Yelp or a number of the other services that I am aware of, where people are grading folks on a regular basis, and it is usually based on their opinion because there are a lot of customer-based sites. So I'm actually surprised that he is getting these kind of rave reviews and these kinds of massive followings on TikTok and YouTube when he's basically doing the thing that hundreds, if not thousands, of people do regularly on some of these other services and don't get that kind of money and recognition. But Miss Ida, what's your take? I don't know if you've ever dealt with any of these platforms, but like I said, I did have that pleasure. I think it was because I did not register on the year of 2 years ago that I did not get the other Yelp badges. I could have been Yelp Elite for 6 or 7 years, but I was actually that for about 4 or 5. But I do know that it is something that's been going on even before the pandemic. So what is your thoughts around this notion of him just giving his honest opinion of what he thought of the food and the service? And service is very important to any restaurant business.
Well, until the video, I didn't know who Mr. Lee was, so I did my due diligence, and he's a former MMA fighter, transition to food critic, and I think on one platform he has 14 million followers. On I think on Instagram or the gram he has 1 million followers, and like I like to say how you said, well, what make him so special? Well, he already had a following. And when I think of him using his following to make himself to transition from one industry to the next, and how he went viral, and we have seen people went viral. I think when I think of food and food critic, I think one sensation. Do you remember years ago? Might have been about 5 years ago. That young guy, he ate Patti LaBelle sweet potato pie, and he began to do various renditions of her songs, and he went viral. And Patty didn't want to give him his props, and they were like, Patty, we won't even come in for your sweet potato pie at Walmart until this young man put a spin on it. And so what he's doing, he's putting a spin on it. What I think about, he's an unofficial food critic, and when we look at people, how someone can make videos, because when people are going on these social media platforms, there is an intentionality. He said that he got a platform he makes money for, and people are asking him to come to their restaurant. And I looked at the response from Candy, and her staff had invited him there. But the thing, when people invite him, they don't know when he's going to show up. And so now, because he got some foot traction, I think he sends his family members or someone to case out the joint. And on several occasions, like he was saying with this one, he wanted the food without the notoriety. So he sent his family in, and then that's when all hell broke loose. And was it an unfair assessment? Absolutely not. Candy is a serial entrepreneur. She has a restaurant in Atlanta. And when we think of foodie in the Black community, ATL, when we were talking about before the footage started running, when we travel, one of the things we want to go to a good restaurant. And we go by Yelp. When I went to Vegas, I Googled top best brunch restaurants to go to. And I went right into these reviews. I went into the ones and twos. And the thing about once somebody become a food critic, Cardi B and people was chiming in. And then it was disparaging that and Candy really didn't address the poor customer service. Her restaurant was a C rating for months until it bounced up to an A. And the thing of what he understands, they need him now. I didn't, like I said, I didn't know who the dude was until last week. He had made himself a niche. I'm not mad at him. And what he's doing, he's actually rating people like we would. I went to a restaurant the other day, Ruby's, is in Maryland. And and I usually, how you go to somewhere and you keep forgetting why you stopped going there, but then they remind you the service is poor, the wait time is poor, and then it puts such a hardship on the food. So what Black people, we have a tendency to do, we overlook certain things because the food is good. But because of COVID and everything, we just don't have the ability. He basically, his mother-in-law or somebody was told it was an hour. When he showed it was 5 minutes. And now, do I understand if a celebrity comes into a establishment, they're going to get good service, exceptional service. So and he felt some type of way because Candy explained why they don't do weekends and such and such. Candy, to me, she just overextended and said she needs to close the restaurant down. And now people are threatening him and such and such. Black people, we are an odd sector of people. We our alliances, and Cardi B, came to his defense. I think when celebrities get into certain restaurants, I think and a lot of celebrities in Atlanta own restaurants. That's their easy foothold. But should they be held to a different standard? Absolutely not. Should they be given the family business? And he had the right to say it was poor service. And then Candy came back. But I'm going to say this and I kick the can back to you, Dr. A. After COVID, the hospitality industry is suffering. You can't get people to work in the restaurant. So, into their defense, some of this have nothing to do with the quality of the food. You just can't get good staff, like they say, I don't call restaurant, nobody answered the phone. And then you feel bad. Should I write something? Should I tell the truth? And a lot of times you should tell the truth. I done seen some very good restaurants that they say the food is awesome, but the service is terrible. And you have to pick your battle. Now, don't go there when you're hungry because you're going to wait an hour and a half. But when you get your fish or when you get your crab cake, it's going to be good. But you probably can't go back again for 3 years because it's going to take you 3 years. And I think it's a niche for him. I think he does understand. But then Black people, we be threatening to whoop your ass when I don't understand the death threats. What's up with that? But yeah, I think, like I said, he found a niche because where he was not working for him anymore. Does it seem odd that we picked a MMA to be a fighter, to be a food critic? Because I used to think about when you think of food critic, usually you think of somebody that came from the food industry. They was a chef or a cook, and they could rate it properly. But sometimes Black people, we're just odd. So do your thing, Keith.
But the thing about it is, he never professed to be a food critic. He never said, I am a food critic. He said, I love food. And he got his following by doing great things and being humble and, praising God and just being himself. The blame of food critic has been placed upon him, but he doesn't profess to be a food critic. And what my thing is, you invited this man, you invited him, his family to come to the restaurant, and you still had poor service or whatever. The onus is not on him. The onus is on the restaurant and the people that you have at the restaurant who is working. And like I tell people all the time, if you don't like working with people, do not get a customer service job. That is not your niche. That is not where you need to be. That is not somewhere where you need to work if you don't like working with people. Now, I have experienced, like negativity going into, Black-owned restaurants. I went to one in Houston and I said I'll never go back again because I had a piss poor ass server. He's arguing with me over something that I said that I wanted and he got my order all wrong. So I ended up requesting a new server, had excellent customer service from the new server, but he wanted to give me attitude and he wanted to do this. If I'm paying for something, I want what I want. Don't try to suggest nothing to me. Don't try to change my order. Don't try to fix nothing for me. I don't care if it costs extra. This is what I want. And I hate when, I go out to restaurants and I experience the piss poor service. And he just highlighted things that people have been saying about the Atlanta culture and about the restaurants in Atlanta. So you can't get mad about, him giving his honest opinion. And you can't get mad about people, co-signing and things like that, because he's not the first person to say this about Atlanta culture. Everybody wants to be treated fairly and decent. If I'm spending my money, I want some type of nice customer service. And then on top of all of that, you charging an 18% gratuity or whatever. I understand that the people got to get tips, but most of the time I tip more than the 18%. But since you're forcing me to do the 18%, that's all you're getting is the 18%. But, like I said, people are, making death threats and, making threats. I don't understand where the threats are coming from. This is this man's honest opinion. If I get on here and say my opinion, like I always do, this is my opinion. This is what I think. You don't have to agree with it. You don't have to like it. You don't have to do anything. But instead of attacking him, the restaurant should have, took the suggestions that he made and try to make those changes in order to appease the people that are supporting the restaurants. You're only as big and as good as your customers. So if you're treating your customers piss poor, then your restaurant is not going to survive. And that's basically what he was saying. And then some of the restaurants he went in, he didn't even order anything. He got nothing or whatever. But these people invited him. So how are you, the blackdacity, gonna invite this man to the restaurant? Then you get mad when he gives his honest opinion about your service, your attitude, and what you did while he was at the restaurant. So it's not Keith Lee's fault that your restaurant is in shambles and your customer service is piss poor. It's your fault because you're not managing your restaurant properly and you're not pushing great customer service. Now, I've been in some restaurants where it had amazing customer service, but the food was mediocre. But I would go back because of the people that I met there and because of the customer service. Now, if you piss me off, I will patronize you one time and that's it. I went to Milk and Honey over here in DC one time and I said I would never go back again because my food, they made catfish. And you got to prepare catfish right. It has to be deep fried, southern fried, whatever y'all want to call it. But it has to be done right. And so when I got my catfish was still not all the way cooked. And so I asked to speak to the chef and I was like, my catfish is not cooked. Oh, it's cooked. It's cooked. I'm from the South. I'm from Atlanta. Baby, I'm from the dirty South. I'm from Louisiana. The catfish is not cooked, sweetie. You need to turn your grease down and not have it so high where the bread is cooking, the bread on the outside is cooking and your meat is not cooked, but the bread is cooked or whatever. So I'm trying to explain this to him. And so he gets an attitude with me. I was like, you know what? I don't want it. Take it off my check. Take it off my bill. You know what I'm saying? I'm trying to support, but I'm trying to also tell you that my food is raw and you over here arguing with me about my food being cooked. My food is not cooked. I'm not eating no raw ass catfish and things like that. Just like yesterday, we went to this Black-owned restaurant in DC. Old Smokehouse, Old City Smokehouse or whatever. Now the food was very flavorful. Ribs amazing. My chicken was just not cooked well enough for me. I don't know if y'all like chicken that ain't really cooked, but my southern self, I don't eat chicken that's not really cooked. So I have it downstairs. So after I finish here, I'm going to put it in the oven and let it finish cooking or whatever. So, it's just certain things that I'm not going to do. I'm not going to eat no half cooked bird, no yard pimp. And people know I love that pimp. They know I love chicken, but I'm not eating it unless it's all the way done. Now, was it flavorful? Yes. Did I like the other stuff? It was okay. It was all right. I would go back, but not order the same thing. They had greens, and I'm not even a greens person. But when I tasted the greens, I'm just like, oh, these are not Southern greens. They were very tart. They had a dill taste to it, like they had pickles in it or whatever. The potato salad was like mashed potatoes with chopped up onions and things like that. I was just like, coming from the South and being Southern, our food is just done a different way. It's just prepared a different way. So, even with that, that's just my opinion on it. Some other people might love it. That's just my opinion. So you can't get mad with someone who's spending their money and bringing their opinion. And these people are not giving him anything. He pays for his food. Every time he goes to a restaurant, he pays for the food. And he doesn't get kickbacks from, going to restaurants and things like that. He make his money from corporations. He charged corporations to put out their products. He doesn't charge the restaurants. So for you to get angry talking about he's trying to shut the restaurants down, no, he's not trying to shut no restaurants down. He gave his honest God opinion. He gave his lived experience. And that was the bottom line.
Well, I think the unfortunate part, the Black community, we don't want to be held to standards. You have food industry standards, whether Yelp or whatever. And we're our downfall. We always want the hookup. We want to modify the standard. For the last 10 years, Chick-fil-A have been rated the #1 customer service fast food restaurant, meaning greeting, coming, just some standards. You're telling me that you're hiring somebody to interface with the public, and you have to say when they come in, make eye contact with the customer and say, good morning. Welcome to, meaning it got to be put in the handbook. And we tell people, no, let us sell these plated sandwiches. And so you have some very gifted people that could really be successful in certain industry, but like you said, your livelihood is tied to your staff. Mm-hmm. Because Candy, the concept is great, but like she said, she repeating what somebody saying to her. Well, then you got a management problem. And you remember years ago, they used to have mystery shoppers, and they used to send us out to restaurants because people was saying, I'm losing money. Why am I losing money? So I'm going to send a stranger, and then when you rate them, where they would say, must greet you when you come in, and they had a score sheet. And when you went back there, the score sheet was a maximum of 100, and you were giving people a 13. Wouldn't speak, walked around, challenge you on the food that you're ordering and paying for. And when you would go to the managers, and because this is really a leadership problem. The other day, I was listening today, Lauryn Hill was confronted about showing up late for her show. And in her response, she said, you're lucky I came at all. People was in the comment where she's an icon, she's a legend. And so we give people a pass. Her restaurant was a seat for many months. It took her a lot to get there. And even, whether it's about closing the restaurant. Now, I think he's there because it's a need. Somebody needs. When I go out, nobody really goes out to anywhere blind anymore. When somebody say, oh, go to Ruth Chris, then you see two somewhere. Don't go to that Ruth Chris, go to the other one. And most of the complaints are about the staff. Mm-hmm. Right now, we were talking about travel woes, and they said people rather pay more money not to be around a chatty patty on the flight, bad hygiene, or crying baby. So now people are saying, let me pay more to get this service. So when we think of a 5-star restaurant, Candy said she's not trying to make a restaurant a 5-star restaurant. Then why are you in the business? Because otherwise people could just get food anywhere, But I think that's to me, the disheartening thing. Now, I think, he found a niche. He's been rocking this niche. You invited him to come to the restaurant. He didn't tell you when he was going to come. But then she even said, oh, well, once we knew who he was, we were going to flip the script. So you're going to be fake. You're going to be who you really were not, because those reviews are not lying. The only thing is, he just got a bigger review. What he said was already being written about that restaurant.
Speaking of which,
you want to be accountable. When, like you said, Dr. A, when you go in there, they said, now, how much of this is true? Well, my staff said, what about not answering the phone? What about, no orders on such and such? And not that she had a answer to everything, then maybe this is not your gig, boo. You a multi-millionaire many times. You don't need this. Your restaurant have been problematic, and she needed Keith to come and tell a lie, but she couldn't buy that young man. That young man said, "No, I wanted to give a real review."
Giving it an honest and sincere review and everything. Hey, Dr. Anthony, if you want, we can go to the tape, go to the wire, and all along those lines, because I do have a couple of tapes around this conversation that folks can get a perspective around what we've been talking about. So let's go to the tapes and see what's being said.
Right now, popular TikToker Keith Lee is sparking a lot of conversation about Atlanta's food scene after he visited a couple of different restaurants here in the city over the weekend. Lee, by the way, has more than 14 million followers, and he's known for his very honest reviews. He talked about how he feels like some of the rules at Atlanta's establishments made it hard for him to review them.
Customer service was interesting. While the people were nice, the rules they had set were very unique to me. We initially tried to do takeout, but when we came in, they said we couldn't sit down, and there was no space at the bar for us to stand. So we had to stand outside to order our food, and then we decided we just gonna dine in. But two people in our party stepped out for a second, because again, we fresh off the plane, so everybody was trying to get situated. The waitress, again, she was nice, but she told us she couldn't take any orders, or she couldn't do anything until everybody sat down. No water, no coffee, no drink orders, no nothing.
A lot of people talking about him right now. Now people all over social media have been responding about how they have also had similar issues at a number of Atlanta's popular spots. But it's not all bad. Some restaurants did get high marks from Keith Lee, and a lot of them are seeing a boom in business from that. Lee talked about his positive experience at the Juicy Jerk in Stone Mountain, the dining experience in Fairburn, and the Bodega in College Park. You know,
That's just one, but let's check what he had to say about DoorDash and another popular restaurant. So here's another one of his takes.
Here's how one TikTok video destroyed the food industry this week. In a video on June 7th, the wildly famous TikTok food critic Keith Lee broke the news that Jersey Mike's will be offering $25 off of any order $12 or more. Now, right from the get-go here, the math ain't mathin'. Now looking at Keith Lee's page, it's rare to find any posts that get under 2 million views. This announcement sent DoorDashers into a spiral. Hundreds of thousands of orders simultaneously coming into Jersey Mike's stores across the country. The traffic caused the DoorDash app to crash. Videos emerged of Jersey Mike's stores being flooded with order tickets. Then people were waiting over an hour for a sub. Some employees were literally quitting. And we even had this employee telling people to cancel their order and go to Wendy's.
If y'all want to cancel the order, go to Wendy's or something. I don't blame y'all, for real.
As a result of all of this, Keith Lee deleted the video, Jersey Mike's ended the promotion early, and DoorDash was left in shambles. If you want free food and cheaper promo codes, just download this app and we'll get them for you.
So critically, along those same lines, and I think I mentioned this to you before, I thought about going across the street. KFC is across the street from where I'm at and everything, but I haven't gone yet. Doesn't mean I won't go later, but I'm still trying to figure out, and maybe y'all can help me since we're talking about food and food service. If you're in a certain business, like if you're in the burger business or you're in the chicken business, it seems to me that that's one of the things that you should always have on hand. But I can tell you that a couple of times these last couple of weeks, I've gone to the chicken place and they've been like, we don't have any chicken. And I'm going like, aren't you a chicken restaurant? Did you have chicken at a chicken restaurant at all times? But I just wanted y'all's thoughts around this because it does sometimes baffle me. And I know that sometimes they can get over slammed because actually we had a, not here, but down the road at St. Mark's, a church convention. So they did get hit by a number of customers that they might not have been expecting because of that conference and all along those lines. But still, I think that they should have been better prepared and all along those lines. So I just wondered if y'all thought if y'all have had that experience as well. It doesn't matter whether it's a chicken restaurant that doesn't have chicken or a fish restaurant that doesn't have fish.
I mean, when I traveled out the country, when we went to Puerto Rico, they didn't have chicken in Puerto Rico. But again, I don't think it's the restaurant's fault. I think it's, as we were saying, customer service. I think it's just a service from delivery drivers and things like that. Because remember, we're still post-pandemic. And so we're still looking for drivers. We're still looking for people to service people in the service industry. And so what people fail to realize is all of that works in a great ecosystem together. So if we don't have drivers to drive the produce and to drive what we need to different places, then there is going to be a shortage. Just like in the educational system, we don't have enough teachers. I was pulled because I'm certified pre-K through 12, so I can pretty much almost teach anything. So I was pulled to teach an ELA class from my class that I'm teaching or whatever. So we're just making adjustments, and just like in the food industry, there isn't enough truckers and enough people that can service. And I'm not saying that is the problem. I'm just looking at it and from a logical standpoint as to why they probably didn't have, what they needed at the particular time. It could have been an influx of customers. It could have been, a delivery issue. It could have been any of those numbers of things, because we are still reeling from, the pandemic, and we're post-pandemic. But as Miss Ida said, a lot of people are not working. A lot of people don't want to work. A lot of people didn't go back into the food industry. A lot of people didn't go back into the service industry. So we're still trying to make do with what we were given and what we have. So that's one of the things that could have caused the restaurant to run out of food and to run out of different things. For example, I was watching a news special this morning about New York. New York gets about 8 million pounds of food over a course of a month and a half. And they're saying that, with that amount of food being there, they still have people up who are not able to have healthy meals, and people who are not able to, purchase food and things like that. And then the places that do have meals, like the bodegas and things, they don't take the SNAP benefits. So there are not enough supermarkets in the areas for them to even get like certain produce, get certain foods, and get certain things. So it's not just a localized problem. This is a national problem, international problem that we're seeing. We just don't have the service workers like we used to, and the people to produce the things that we needed to produce. And then also, what affected a lot of things was Florida. When the governor started arresting the Hispanics who were undocumented, that affected a lot of stuff, our produce, our fruit, things that we were getting from there, trucking and, stuff. So when these people are making these laws and making these decisions, they have to understand that everything works together. It goes hand in hand. Ida?
Well, I think, like you said, it's you got the consumer, you have the small business owner, all the way up to the franchise, and then you have the government, then you have the industry. I think for me, when I think of the everyday business, you're very aware. I love Caribbean food. It's one down the street. But how can you be out of oxtail every week? Okay. How can you be out of goat meat every weekend? I told them that's why I became a vegan. I don't even order meat here anymore. And I remember a couple of years when Just Hilarious called them out before the pandemic. And so you're having people that have grandma recipe, and they're gifted, but they're just poor business owner. They just don't know how to run a business. And then what they do, they force their consumer to comply with this behavior. I said, okay, it's your restaurant opening at 10:30. You out of oxtail already? Okay. I said to the young man, I said, well, why don't y'all just allot the customer a note and put a note on the door or something on the phone? The almost the condescending nature, like we don't have it. And so then you're dealing with, like you said, the post pandemic. The world's not going to be the same. People just greedy as fuck. We just realize people just like to eat all the time. And so we have to find some way of addressing these issues, like you said, the education. And so what I notice a lot of times, we just be like a deer in the headlight, or the bird, and put their head in the ground. And coming back to like what we said when Keith was talking about this, he didn't set the standard. You have a food industry standard. When you go to a restaurant, you expect to order food and get it in a timely manner. We need.
But Miss Ida, along those same lines and everything, and I'd love to hear both you and Dr. Anthony's thoughts about this and everything. There is another trend that we haven't touched on even in the food industry, which is that if an area is blighted, and all along those lines, they will redevelop the area. And a lot of times when they redevelop the area, they make it a very popular destination for restaurants and for other businesses to come around. And speaking of food critics and the food system and everything, there is an area here in Durham, North Carolina, where I am based at and everything, called East Durham. East Durham was very much in the hood, was very much the hood neighborhood. And what we have seen happen is that a lot of restaurants have come into the area, and they are actually seen as part of a burgeoning food scene here in the area, which means that a lot of times the folks that are running these restaurants, sometimes they are parts of our minority community, but sometimes they are other members because it's the hip place to be, even though, like I said earlier, it used to be the blighted part of the community. So then we have the ways that restaurants can be used to encourage and participate in the gentrification of our society. So, Dr. Anthony, any thoughts around that? Because, like I said, East Durham was very much a blighted area, and now we've got a lot of people that are coming, including some of our white citizens that are loving coming to these new fancier restaurants and all in that space. And I'm thinking that's part of the area that even was going there in Atlanta as well, because they have become very popular, and then they get that kind of like ring of the new toy in town, the new game in town. So folks started flocking into that neighborhood, and it adds to the gentrification. But any thoughts around that?
Well, Atlanta really hasn't really been hit with too much gentrification, I don't think, because Atlanta is a very black city. And I don't think that has anything to do with their restaurants and their market. I just think that the customer service is just really poor, because if you've been to Atlanta and you've experienced, any part of Atlanta, Atlanta is very black. Peachtree, Lenox Mall, and, all that stuff is very black. But that still does not take away from what Keith Lee and others are saying about the poor customer service and things like that. People want your money, but they don't want to give you the good customer service in order to retain your money. And then, one of the other notions is black people don't tip. That's why they don't like dealing with black people. And that's farthest from the truth. We tip based off of customer service. If your customer service is poor, you're going to receive a poor tip. If your customer service is grand and great, you're going to receive an excellent tip. I recall I was in a restaurant in Laurel. We had went out after work for drinks or whatever. So this chick, she was over there catering to the men, barely come and take our order, barely, engage with us and things like that or whatever. And so she said something at the end of the night or whatever about, we not really leaving her a tip. I'm not gonna tell you what I said, because it's some very choice words, and I have students that's watching my my show. But just know that I put her in a place and told her why she wasn't getting no tip or whatever.
But Dr. Anthony, I got to call you out.
I normally say.
I got to call you out on something you just said and everything. And I hear what you're saying, because yes, definitely, just like DC is known as the chocolate city, Atlanta is also known for a lot of us being in that area and everything. But actually, most of the time when people talk about gentrification, it isn't just around race. It's also around class. And there's actually studies that have said, including by the Urban Displacement Center or Urban Displacement Project, that Atlanta is one of the fastest gentrifying cities in the United States. So there is a class divide as well.
I mean, I understand that that's class, but you asked me for my opinion, right? But what I thought, you know what I'm saying? And I just said that I don't think that that's the case with Atlanta. You have a lot of black people that are going into Atlanta who are, looking for those movie roles, who are trying to be rappers and things like that. As far as gentrification for me is concerned, it's not the white flight that I think that they're looking for, because Atlanta is still very much black, and it's still very much, the black people are still very much in the majority. They're not the minority or whatever. So you do have like an influx of, well-to-do people in Atlanta. And you also have a lot of influx of just regular workers in Atlanta. And I think, a lot of people go to Atlanta thinking that they're going to make it big. They're going to be, the next rapper. They're going to be the next Cardi B. They're going to be the next whatever. And the reality of the situation is that's just not what's happening. And that's just not what they're getting or whatever. But, centered around the food and the customer service, you got to provide good customer service. And like Ida was saying, it's just like a standard, like certain restaurants, certain black restaurants, we give a pass because the food is good. We give a pass because it's something in that restaurant that we want. But we need to start holding these people accountable, like Keith Lee is doing, holding these people accountable, because we want good customer service along with great food. We don't want to dish your restaurant. That's not what we're saying. What we're saying is fix the problem. Fix the customer service. If you know that you have people that don't like to work with people, don't put them on your front line. If you know you have a Spitfire in the house who cannot be a service worker, don't put them on the front line. I already know I can't be a service worker because I'm a spitfire. You know, I say what come to my mind and I don't have no filter. You know what I'm saying? So I know that that's not the place for me. You know, everybody has a lane, and I always tell people you need to stay in your lane. And if you know that you don't like dealing with people, you know that you don't like customers, you know that you don't like providing great customer service, don't get that type of job. You know what I'm saying? And that's all he was saying basically is, you know, step up your customer service. And then, you know, when you found out that he was in the house and that he was there, oh, you wanted to change everything. And he's like, no, don't change everything because I'm here. Treat me just like you were treating my parents or my wife before you even knew that that was my parent or my wife or my sister. You know what I'm saying? Treat me like don't make no exceptions for me.
I hear what you're saying and everything, but one of the things that I have seen, even in some of the restaurants around here, because there are a number of people that give reviews. It's not just a person like Keith Lee, no relation to myself and everything. You know, maybe we're just two cousins, but who knows about that and everything. But that being said, that there is a notion of this idea that sometimes, and it's kind of what y'all was alluding to, but I'd love to hear maybe even Ida thoughts about this, that we will sometimes forgive people, not just for the bad service, but also things around cleanliness and other things. Because I know some people, including some very popular soul food restaurants that are here in this area that have not gotten the greatest reviews because of some certain things that were going on in terms of the way that they kept the food or certain critters that might be running around the restaurant and all along those lines. But because people are thinking that the food is so hip or so tasty that they're not thinking about what their health consequences might be, and all in that space. So, Miss Ida, any thoughts about that? Because I'm thinking there might be some restaurants in DC and places that are popular but aren't necessarily the ones that have the cleanliness grades in that space.
Well, I think that's why you're always going to have the Ruth Chris. You're going to have the 5-star hotels, restaurant where I can charge you $1 trillion because really I'm charging you for the service. I'm charging not for the food, not for the chef. You're here because you want to wear a shirt and tie. You're here because you know, this might not be the best food, but you're going to get the best service. And that's why people go back to Chick-fil-A. When you remember years ago, they had the competition between Chick-fil-A and Popeyes, and it was around this sandwich or whatever. And eventually people start losing their lives over a sandwich, you know. And so really what I take this back to at the end of the day, this is just our home training. How were you raised to conduct yourself as going in a restaurant? And when you go to work, you know that I have to say to you, Ida, when the customer comes in, make eye contact. Stop talking to Tawana. Make eye contact. Don't suck your teeth when she asks, can you tell me the special of the day? And so really, I had went to some 5-star restaurant travel, and their food was not better than the food that I could have got in a hole in the wall. But I got the food in a timely manner. If something was wrong, they automatically took it off your bill. You know, you almost didn't have to go there. And so for Black people in this area where Black people are the source of most things that are talented. When you think about slave and the master, what set them apart? We took the straps and made it into something. I never did get down with the chitlins part, but the fact that we then said, take this and be glad to have it. And you know, we continue to call Atlanta the Black Mecca, which is odd to me. And so we then began to say, and Candy by default should have a standard because her reputation is tied to that reputation. She should have a reputation just like T.I. Most of those rappers and entertainers have restaurants in Atlanta. And if you don't want to do that, get a food truck, get an online catering service, modify how you interface with the customer and your food. You want us to come into your establishment, spend our money, but you don't want us to say anything to you. You don't want us to, you know, like you said, you get the food, then you got to wait 20 minutes to get the bill. You know, and like you said, you got people that are working that, like you said, that you have to, you say, well, if I correct Ida, Ida's going to quit. So I just got to let Ida, I got to sort of suck it up. Ida's not getting, and they're not asking for a manager every time for Ida, but Ida does come to work. So you're in an industry that does not serve you well. And your reputation, those reviews, which I did read, was the majority about management, leadership, and staffing. It had very little to do with food. But you're going to drag this out, and then you're going to use Keith Lee as a scapegoat for bad service. Boy, we want to do something, but we don't want to do, just like when, we will say, the Latinos or the Mexican. Now you go to McDonald's, you go to a black restaurant, and it's majority Mexicans in there. They're serving Popeyes, which, and they're serving this. So they're taking over, and they're providing a service that we now think is beneath us, And so we do have to sit back and reflect and say, really, what are we teaching our children? Are we teaching our children that poor manners is acceptable, and go somewhere to work where they will let you be less than your best, right? That you don't have any standards. Like you said, you have standards at school. You can't talk anyway to your teachers, but we see, like you said, in the industry, that you see that you have some parents that do condone, let them be free, say whatever they want, don't correct my child. But I think COVID annihilated the food industry, the quality of food. You got DoorDash, you got the drivers eating your food, and so, all this doesn't make you go home, cook your own food. Just go back.
Miss Ida just had that happen yesterday, because yesterday I ordered from DoorDash. I ordered something actually from a very popular restaurant named after a person's daughter, so that'll tell you which burger place it was and everything. And I ordered their chili and all along those lines, and the chili was not there, so I had to go back and say, hey, I didn't get my chili. And I think that they had replaced the chili with the fries, so they didn't even give me the full refund in terms of the amount. But I think the chili was like a $3, $4 chili, but they refunded me $2, and I was going like, I figured out what they had done. They'd done a little bit of quick mathing and had subtracted what they did give me from what they were supposed to give me, and then gave me the credit of the difference. I was actually thinking they were going to give me the full credit, and I may still fight them on that.
Now you have food, you have chefs, cooks and chefs that let me just cook you up food for a whole week. Fuck the restaurant. Don't even go to the restaurant. You want to spend $100? I can make you $100 worth of food that you can eat at home. All you got to do. So that need is generating more opportunities. Because I can tell you 5 years from now, the candy restaurant is not going to sustain. But you're dealing with someone that doesn't need a restaurant. She's a multi-millionaire. This is just something to keep her money.
It's a hobby. And like I said, Doc Rivers, when I was, and he's about to be an ESPN analyst, but I know when he was playing for the Atlanta Hawks, he actually had and I don't know if it's still around, but it was like an ice cream type restaurant. It was one of his first investments when he first got into the NBA, because he had a number of investments, and one of those was a restaurant there in Atlanta, because that first thing he played with was the Hawks. So he definitely got into the restaurant business, and a lot of people think that the restaurant business is an easy business, but we know, and I know from having friends in it, that it can be a very difficult business to get into. And one of the things that you got to have quality customer service, because if you don't, it will come in and bite you in the backside and all along those lines, because people don't forget bad quality service, and they will then stop going to that particular restaurant, and a lot of times they will stop going to it also if it is not authentic. Because I know a number of people, and I think that definitely this is something that even Dr. Anthony may get some kick out of, but I know a number of restaurants that claim to be Cajun or claim to be Creole and all of that, and in some cases the people have that authentic background, so it is actually true Creole or true Cajun food. But I've also seen some people that think that because they can read a cookbook or read a certain style, that they can recreate what that kind of food is supposed to be without having that true experience and everything. So I'm sure that you have seen, Dr. Anthony, some of those faux Creole and faux Cajun restaurants that are not truly authentic. Now, I know that we have a couple here in Durham and everything that the people actually spent time, and in some cases even were raised in Louisiana, so they know how Louisiana cooking is supposed to be done. But I've also seen some that have the name, and sometimes they might even be owned by people of an entire different culture and everything. But I just wanted your take on that, because there are some people that will think that because they can read about a Cajun restaurant that they know how to make Cajun food.
I typically stay away from those because, like you said, the food is it's not authentic. It's not, Southern and things like that. I mean, I know I've been to some restaurants that sell crawfish, during crawfish season. And if I ask for the chef and they can't tell me where in Louisiana that they got their crawfish from, I know that I'm not eating those crawfish because the crawfish are germane to Louisiana, and we have crawfish farms where they grow crawfish and things like that or whatever. So I know that if it comes from China and all that stuff, I'm not eating those crawfish because they use human feces and other stuff to grow their crawfish, to grow their, whatever. And I know I'm not eating that. So no, that's a no. That's a negative for me. So I just not frequent those because whatever they serve in the restaurants, I can make myself. I cook. As a matter of fact, I just got a box of seasoning that I sent to myself over the weekend. It came today or whatever with all my seasonings and things that I get from Louisiana and that I need to make my authentic Creole food. So if it's something that I want, I just cook. Because like I said, I tend not to eat the restaurant stuff, especially like the restaurant gumbo, because they just don't make it the way that we make it and what I'm accustomed to. So I just typically, when they say Cajun Creole, I just typically just don't go.
Hey, Doc, I hear you. I agree with you on that. Dr. Anthony and Ida and everything, Miss Ida. One of the things that I'm curious about, because you mentioned earlier, Miss Ida, that you are vegan and everything. I know a lot of people like to eat natural food and to be more natural in their health, and we definitely need to be more healthy in what we do. I actually heard somebody on one of our previous shows that said that they thought the food tasted better today than it used to, and all along those lines. And I'm not sure that I 100% buy that, but I was just wondering, because some of the natural food is also some of the most expensive. I think I've mentioned on this show, and I know on other shows that I will sometimes order the produce box, which is food that's coming from the farms around here and all in that. But I also know that I'm spending probably a lot more than I would if I was going to some of the other locations for the ambiance and the big saying that I'm having natural foods and all of that. And we know that there's the whole joke around Whole Foods, which is also nicknamed Whole Paycheck and all in that space. So I was just wondering your thoughts around this notion of healthy food, but also trying to find ways to make it less expensive, because some of the healthy foods can also be some of the more expensive options as well.
Well, I'm not a vegan anymore. I tell people now I'm plant-based. Tabitha Brown became a multimillionaire from becoming vegan. And once again, the thing that I think about the Black community that is very alarming and discerning to me is we have allowed social media to really manipulate us or brainwash us, that, like I said, we just latch onto anything. It's like we don't have we can't come to our own understanding of what is good and what is bad. And like you said, these conversations are very disheartening because we don't have a standard in our community, in the Black community. We look more to an entertainer or a rapper or an athlete to determine our every way of what success is for us and what is food. And I'm from the South, and I used to, I came from farm to table. So when I used to start eating food that came from the grocery store, I got sick because I was like, this food is different. It don't even look the same. And so what happened? And then we realized the government was in bed with the industry. The government was manipulating us. So I think every day when we wake up, we do need to have a Keith Lee. We do need to help people to, on this day, people, Pharrell said something. He didn't coin it, of course. The truth will set you free, but first it'll piss you off. People don't like the Black community. We are now getting to a dangerous low place where we don't want to be told the truth. And if we're told the truth, you're not our friend, you're not our enemy. So if you give me poor service, they don't even ask you how the food is no more. You know how they bring you to the table, and then a couple men will house you. Girl, they be so busy over there. And then when they get upset when that survey come out, these restaurants sends a survey, and then they, and then they over there like side-eyeing you like, would you feed this to your mother? And what we try to do, Dr. A and I, we're trying to give not Black on Black crime. This is your young Black person probably and we begin to say, okay, should I tell the truth? Yes, you should tell the truth. That person don't like their job. They know this is not adequate. And then when you ask for a manager, now you the bad guy. I done came to this restaurant to keep you in business because I wanted some food. Your staff didn't refill my water. I almost feel like I need a W-2. Can I have some more water? And then you have someone to say, they're telling you, I know their clothes might be dirty because they back there cooking and being a manager. And so, you know, we don't want to be told the truth. Mm-hmm. So now, like you said, Dr. A and I occasionally use, now you got the average Black person trying to eat at home more than that. Wendy's not Wendy's anymore. So we have our white counterpart beating us at a larger rate just for basic customer service. You and I know we could get a better chicken sandwich from anywhere other than Chick-fil-A, but we want to be treated with respect. So you say, I'll go here, this person going to do. We know we can go to the convenience store, but sometimes, yeah, I'm going to go to Whole Foods or I'm going to go somewhere where it's clean and I can show my receipt. I don't have to go through a whole bunch of stuff. But we have to have some standard so we can continue to grow, right? But we just give everybody a pass. Anytime something goes on in the Black community, they want a pass. We can't continue to elevate if we just give everybody a pass. We don't want to talk about politics. We refuse to understand that tomorrow's voting in Virginia. We don't want to talk about things that are impacting. We don't want to talk about education. So let me have Ebonics. So we are now at these crossroads that the next generation is going to pay a bigger price. Because like you said, when a Dr. A or somebody says something, people think you're over the top. But some over the top situations we're dealing with.
No doubt about that. I know we're getting ready to wind down, and this has been a fun conversation around the Lee effect and all in that space. I was curious, and we can bring this up on tomorrow, next week and everything. But there is also this notion of sometimes people don't accept criticism all that well either, because definitely there has been a whole tit for tat and a battle between two of the TikTokers, Mr. Lee being one of them, because apparently he has called out the Mr. Beast, who is from North Carolina, and is even challenged him to a fight. And I know that there is a fight that is now on hold because one of the people got hurt, that being Mark Zuckerberg, between Mark Zuckerberg and Elon Musk. So they were going to actually challenge each other to a fight. So sometimes people are ready to go back to the old days of the duel, and instead of a duel, they're just going to do it in fisticuffs or in something along those lines. So I did see that when I was actually researching Mr. Lee, was that he had a battle that actually he called out Mr. Beast about 2 or 3 months ago and said that he would love to take him on in a fight and all in that space. So Mr. Beast has no boxing background, whereas Keith Lee is an MMA fighter. So I don't think that would be much of a battle. Now, the battle between Elon Musk and Mark Zuckerberg, neither one of them are actually all that well trained. So that might be not a good fight. Might make for some great material for Ida B's comedy, because I think that's not going to be a fight worth seeing and all in that space. But don't know if y'all have any thoughts around that as well.
No, I want to go back to what Ida was saying about the food and it being different. I don't think the food is better than what our parents experience, because a lot of the older generation, these people are still living. These people are still kicking it strong. These people are living past, like 90 to 100 years old. And this is people that ate the food that was produced before the production of food that was produced now. And a lot of people don't understand that the USDA allow roach eggs, red hairs, and all that stuff in your food anyway. So Mark, as you were saying, that they're running around the restaurants is already in your food. So that's why a lot of Black people still go and patronize those Black restaurants. I know it's a Black restaurant that's in New Orleans. Look like it should be shut down by the health board. I still go there and I still patronize it because the food is good. The little ladies that's cooking in the back, the customer service is excellent. And I don't care if it looks like it should be shut down by the health department. I'm still going to go there and I'm still going to patronize it and I'm still going to eat. And if you're wondering what it is, it's called Anita's. And as far as, other food is concerned, people are saying, organic this, organic that. The food is not organic. They still use pesticides. They just use less of the pesticides that they put in the regular food or whatever, because you have people that were complaining, I had a worm in my strawberry. I had this. Okay, well, you can't bitch and complain that you don't want, pesticides and things like that or whatever, and then you're complaining that you have a worm. You can't have it. You can't have it both ways. It's either you're going to use the pesticides or you're not. The pesticides is to keep the bugs off your food, to keep the worms out of your fruit. So if you're not utilizing pesticides, that's what's going to happen. So when you have people that are, finding these worms and these bugs inside of the fruit, that's because pesticides were not used. So you can't, say in one hand, oh, I want my fruit this way, but then you bitch and complain that I got a bug on it or I got a worm in it because, you didn't use pesticides. But, like I tell people all the time, they're making money off of saying that it's organic, and which is really not organic because they're still using pesticides. They're just using less of them or whatever. I buy the regular food. I don't have no problems. I don't have no problems with my food or anything like that. But if you notice a lot lately, a lot of these children are having a lot of allergies, although I do have food allergies to some, but it's like the stuff that come out the ocean, that we shouldn't be eating anyway or whatever. But, a lot of the kids have food allergies. A lot of the kids can't eat, raw fruit. A lot of the kids can't eat raw vegetables and things like that. But, again, the food that we're getting compared to what they got back in the day, it's two totally different types of food. You have the GMO, and that's why I have to school my mom and my stepdad when they go to the grocery store to make groceries. Do not buy this. Do not buy that. If it says that it comes from here, don't buy it. If it says that it has this label, do not buy it. Look for made in the USA. Look for grown in the USA. Look for this. Look for that. So, we just have to be cognizant of what we're consuming and what we're putting into our bodies and things like that. And I know the clock on the wall says that's all. So I'm going to go ahead and shut it down, and make sure you click like and share. We had a few episodes that made it to the top 5, top 10. We want to get that number 1 slot. So make sure you guys click like and share, and make sure you tune in next week for some more great topics and some more great conversation with myself, the beautiful Miss Ida B, and the wonderful Mr. Mark Lee. But unfortunately, the clock on the wall says that's all, and we have to end it right now. Bye, my loves. What's up? What's up? What's up? Welcome to the All Around. I'm your gracious host, Dr. Anthony. Please tune in on Mondays at 6 p.m. for your entertainment purposes. We will hit current topics, old topics, and everything else in between. Be there or be square. Deuces, my loves.